Hello and welcome back to Coven. This is a podcast where we commune with our dream coven and explore the archetype of the witch. This is season 4, episode 3. Hello. We're back with Coco's story of someone that she's researched this week.
Yes, yeah. I can't wait for you to hear all about them because of your person. Just like it's so crazy how we're always in sync.
Yeah, always. There's always some kind of similarity, but usually it's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Sense.
That's true.
Well, do you have a magic moment that you want to share?
Yes,
before we get into it?
I do. As you can see, I have Mama Severa and Mama Eva here with me. It's my grandmother, my great-grandmother. They're the ones that I took my last names from, and they've just been guiding me lately, like with everything. And Chris and I stayed up really late the other night doing readings. He gave me a reading. I gave him a reading. And, we included Mama Severa and Mama Eva. And the readings were intense, like probably the most intense readings like ever.
Sick.
And then, I know it sounds weird, but rainbows and butterflies, when I see them, I know it's my grandmother. 'Cause the day that my grandmother, the day of my grandmother's funeral, there was a little teeny tiny section of a rainbow over her house. And when I talk to her, I, say like, show me a sign if you're around, and the next day I went to, Chris's gig, and I was sitting there with some friends, and these two butterflies just came floating over and hung out right in front of us for like a while, just stayed there too, and then took off. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's my grandma, my great-grandma.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, that was my magic moment.
Aw. And I remember when we were in San Luis Obispo, and you were saying that you've been like asking for ancestors to come through.
And that was that was going to be my magic moment for another one, but no, it's okay. No, it's okay. We can talk about it though. Yeah. You know what? That'll be in the next episode.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I love that they're here with us, and yeah, it's a good season for their energy.
Yes.
I feel.
Yeah, it's their time.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Okay, well, without further ado, would you like to first say like what this is before I hand it to you?
Yes, this is the part of the show, if you've never seen an episode before, where I will be doing a blind natal chart reading, astrological chart reading, from the person who Coco has researched and will be telling their story. I don't know who Coco researched, so this is me just going in blind, seeing what kind of energy I get from their natal chart.
Here you go.
Okay. All right. Everything on the upper hemisphere.
No exact birth time.
Okay.
So, this was my guesstimate, but
Texas.
Seems to fit. Yeah.
Okay. Guesstimate just based on like your vibe of the person and transits and things that you were feeling.
Not necessarily hit the transits, but just like that where like the planetary placements. Yeah. I actually didn't do a transit chart for her.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Okay. So yeah, all of the 12th house stuff, Sun, Mars, Mercury. Yeah. Anytime, especially with Mercury in the 12th house, it's super connected to, your hint last week was liminal spaces, but yeah, it's very connected to imaginal realms and dream spaces and visions, and similar to all of our 12th house placements in season 3, they were all connected with transcendence and the space beyond what is known. But it's also 12th house placements are very isolating. It's people who feel like outcasts, who feel like they're on the outside looking in, never quite belong, never quite feel a sense of like deep community, especially because it looks like there's also Neptune pretty much conjunct the sun, but technically in the 11th house with whole signs. So it's like even more of that confusion around identity and belonging.
Yes, you're doing great.
Thank you. Few things. Moon opposing Mercury. Moon in Aries. Hell yeah, Aries moon.
Just to let you know, this one was hard for me.
Okay.
But then once I started getting into who she was and her story, like this person is deep. And so that's why it's not anything that's going to be obvious.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Moon opposing Mercury, that is just somebody who is very, their perspective, especially because Mercury's in the 12th house, their perspective with everything is so informed by their emotions. It's like a very intuitive perception. Like their emotional reality is the reality because Mercury is like obscured in the 12th house a little bit. It's like has this sort of blanket of fog over it, and so it's like everything has to pass through a filter of her emotions. And as an Aries moon myself, I can say the Aries moon emotions are quite intense and overpowering and fast and blatant. Okay. Saturn, Uranus conjunction in Gemini in the 8th house, forming a trine to those, the Sun and Mars. Again, subterranean. It's underwater. It's the 8th and the 12th house are very like subconscious houses. The 8th house, I think about like our core attachments a lot of the time. It's also like shared resources, and it's kind of like the house of inheritance. In Gemini, interesting. Just like interesting issues with authority, I suppose, or again, it's just a feeling of like fitting into like structure or society. It seems like somebody who's really intelligent. Uranus in Gemini and Saturn in Gemini and the Sun in Libra and Mercury in Libra, like air signs. It's very smart, but just like doesn't fit in, cannot quite fit in, and perhaps that's something that she or this person inherited. Like maybe it's a sort of familial thing of like family doesn't quite belong, and so she's inheriting that sort of eccentric space. It is a really interesting chart. There's a lot to consider because it's like she also has, technically this stellium, even though they're across signs, but Venus, Neptune, Sun, and Mars are all together over there in the 11th and 12th house, which is just very confusing. And it's sandwiched by Venus in Virgo and Mars in Libra. Both of those are in their sign of, like, their fall sign, one of their falls or their detriment. It's just a really confusing energy.
Yeah.
It's very somebody who's probably pretty like perfectionistic, but not really sure what they're perfectionistic about. Like kind of morally obscure a little bit, but feels very strongly and passionately about what their morals are in the moment. It's definitely like a shape-shifting sort of personality. Yeah, super interesting. And then Pluto up there on the midheaven in Leo is strange, with everything else considered.
Let me put it to you this way. I have thought about covering this person several times, and every single time I look at this person's chart, I'm like, no.
Interesting.
But this time I forced myself to do
Yeah.
it. And then once I started really diving into it, I was like, oh, wait, it all makes sense
Yeah.
now. But it's not obvious.
Yeah. Jupiter in Cancer conjunct Lilith in the 9th house. Big, I mean, that feels like matriarch energy, but like grandmother energy, but like grandmother is like ancient female rage, ancient feminine rage, like an ancestral feminine rage almost and within her, but very like grandmotherly, very communal, very like I want to say very open because it's Jupiter in Cancer up at the top of her chart, but it's Jupiter in Cancer conjunct Lilith, and like Pluto's not far off. So it does have this sort of like hidden nature to it, in the shadows, like when she is fully like embodying this more like nurturing grandmother-esque matriarch presence, perhaps it is not received well. Like it almost seems like this is someone who is expected to have a more masculine presence, but yeah, like she's expected to have a more masculine presence, or they're expected to have a more masculine presence, but and when there's like the feminine comes through or a feminine expression comes through, there's a lot of confusion and shame. Yeah, a lot of identity confusion and shape-shifting and ego dissolving, and it's like pure emotion. So much intelligence, pure emotion, not a lot of clarity. Yeah, okay. I think that's
very good. Oh my gosh, that was so good. I'll let you hang on to that.
Sick.
Okay.
What is this?
I would like to. I would like to introduce. This is going to be a long introduction.
Sick.
I would like to introduce to you the poet, bruja, curandera of language, nepantlera, visionary, mystic, border woman, depth psychologist, spiritual activist, shaman, philosopher, teacher, dreamer, shapeshifter. You said that. Storyteller, healer, threshold keeper, bridge builder, shadow worker, and she also called herself, these are her words, Chicana dyke feminist, Patlache poet, writer, and cultural theorist, Gloria Anzaldúa.
What? Wait, okay. Oh my god. Gloria Anzaldúa wrote about, or no, wait, maybe, when was she born?
1942.
Okay, she wrote about or was like friends with, or Leonora was connected to Gloria in some capacity, or Leonora read her.
I would not be surprised because she's, a lot. I mean, she's quite famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know she's one of your favorites.
Yes.
I knew her from that, but I remember reading about her in Leonora's story, because they are connected in some way. I just can't remember what it was.
Yeah. We'll have to check that out. But
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So Gloria Anzaldúa. She was born on September 26, 1942, and she was the eldest of 4 children born to Urbano and Amalia ni Garcia Anzaldúa in Rio Grande Valley of South Texas. And I also want to say that, and there's a reason for this, I will not be translating any of the words from Spanish to English. I'm just going to speak them in honor of Gloria Anzaldúa because that is her writing. Her writing is a mixture of not just like English and Spanish, but it's like English, Spanish, and Spanglish, and some indigenous languages in there as well. So, and one of the reasons why she wrote that way is so that she could have others understand how it felt to her. Okay, so her family was raised on a ranch until white farmers acquired their land, an early encounter that introduced Anzaldúa to the entangled forces of racism and capitalism. And her father was a tenant farmer and sharecropper who kept only 60% of what he earned, and the rest went to a white-owned corporation called Rio Farms, Inc. Anzaldúa later wrote that her family lost their land through a combination of taxes, racial manipulation by whites buying up South Texas land, and her grandfather's carelessness. That's what she was saying. So, when Anzaldúa was an infant, this is one of the most underreported stories about her, actually. And it's a part of her origin story, and it connects directly to everything she later theorized about the body, the bruja, and la facultad. And so as an infant, she developed an extremely rare hormonal imbalance that caused her to begin menstruating at only 3 months old.
Wow.
The condition marked her as physiologically different from her peers, and it caused her to have this lifelong empathy for outsiders, which directly motivated her social justice work and her desire to write to create inclusionary communities. This is a quote from her. It is from her, it's called Interviews, Entrevistas, and it was edited by AnaLouise Keating, which I have a Gloria Anzaldúa reader here who is edited by the same person, and I'm going to read just a couple of things from her because they're amazing. But this is a quote from Gloria Anzaldúa about this experience. I had no sexual identity because this whole part of my body was in constant pain all of the time. I couldn't play like other kids. I couldn't open my legs. My mother had to put a little piece of rag there. My breasts started growing when I was about 6, so she made me this little girdle. I was totally alienated from this part of my body. She later reflected that the pain was simply her normal way of life, and she eventually had a hysterectomy before she turned 40 to address the chronic pain and the hormonal fluctuations, though chronic illness remained a theme throughout her whole life.
Interesting. Saturn Uranus, side note, Saturn Uranus, I feel like I'm starting to wonder if it's associated with chronic illness.
Oh, really?
Because that is an aspect that is in my dad's chart, who has multiple sclerosis. And
interesting.
Yeah, that's just an interesting.
Yeah. I love it when we have those epiphanies, you know. I think that happened to me in the last one.
Yeah. You notice it once, it's like interesting, and then you see it again, and again it starts to become a pattern, and that's when it starts to feel like,
yes,
maybe there's something here.
I made her Scorpio rising, which put her moon in the 6th house. That is her body and perpetual uprising. So the moon, which, you know, at times represents the physical body anyway, and then in the 6th house representing the physical body. And it was, and opposing her Mercury in the 12th house, trying to communicate what she was already feeling in her body.
Yeah, definitely.
But having a difficult time with it because of having a difficult time with identity. Identity was hard, was a difficulty for her, knowing her own identity. La facultad is the faculty of the body's own knowing. That's one of her terms that she used. And then her Mercury, you know, working behind the veil. She spent her whole life trying to theorize about what her body already knew. The moon is saying, feel this wound, and Mercury's making sense of it through language and philosophy. She was a philosopher, big time philosopher. So Jupiter in the 9th house, and she was a feminist
philosopher with Lilith. In Cancer. Yep, that makes sense. Also, I was thinking the hormonal like the hormonal problems being like it's such a huge part of her life too, I feel like makes sense with the Jupiter conjunct Lilith in Cancer. I don't really have an explanation for that. It just feels like that makes sense with that placement.
Well, and her moon trining Chiron in Leo, the her emotional body in harmony with that wound.
Yeah.
She could access it, feel it, and transform it without being destroyed by it. When she was 7 years old, her father gave her a quarter, and she used it to buy a small Western book at a drugstore. And the book sparked her love of reading and her critical consciousness. She later reflected that reading permanently changed her, and that in the Western, she read all the house servants, villains, and cantineras, which almost translated, but I'm not going to, were Mexican. When she entered Texas's segregated educational system in 1949 because she spoke only Spanish, her teacher mocked and punished her. She was punished in grade school for her inability to speak English properly. And this experience became the foundation for her concept of linguistic terrorism, which developed in her master work Borderlands, La Frontera. Have you ever read Borderlands, La Frontera? Yeah. Like I said, I'm going to read a few excerpts from her stuff, but that one is her master work, the one that she's known for. And just to kind of like talk about what she means when in Borderlands, La Frontera, it's about being in a liminal space, and it's an in-between space. It's where it's where many things happen, but it's not a place that is in the spotlight. It's under. It's the underworld, but it's underground. It's hidden. I was actually surprised to find out that she was 6th generation Mexican American.
Wow.
So for 6 generations, she her family lived there.
Yeah, the inherited Saturn Uranus. I think the language is really interesting specifically with that because Gemini, I think of language with Gemini, and Saturn Uranus, the linguistic terrorism.
Yeah, and Gemini. When I think of Gemini, I always think of small bursts of communication, and she wrote a lot of poems and short stories and works like that.
Fascinating.
After relocating at age 11 to the city of Hargill, Texas, on the U.S.-Mexico border, the family entered the fields to work. With her parents and siblings, Anzaldúa worked as a migrant worker for a year in Arkansas. This was another synchronicity. So she worked in her family worked in Arkansas. My dad's family is from Arkansas. Which just little synchronicities here and there, you know. Her father then made the decision to keep the family in Hargill so the children could get an education. When Anzaldúa was 14, her father's aorta burst while he was driving, and he died. And this left her with a financial burden and responsibilities that required her to continue working in the fields throughout high school and college, while also nurturing her passion for reading, writing, and drawing.
Wow.
And despite having to work full-time in the fields, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way, and there was a comedian, I think it was Stephen Colbert, who had this campaign for, you know, Americans to be able to get their jobs back, and he met up with these different farmers around the country to invite Caucasian American people to you know,
want your
to
job
work.
back. Come on.
No one showed up. Not one person showed up. So anyway, just kind of an interesting little side note. After graduating as a valedictorian, Anzaldúa spotted a lesbian couple making love in a friend's dorm room at Texas Women's University, and she became terrified. She didn't understand what was going on. She ran down the hall, and her roommate reassured her that everything was fine and that, it's okay. And then she began forming relationships with other queer students as she worked with the Chicano and feminist movements on campus. Her entire intellectual project grew directly out of her childhood, the experience of being in a body that didn't fit because of her hormonal disorder, a language that was criminalized, Spanish in Texas schools, and a family whose land and dignity were stolen, racial capitalism, and a girl who turned to books and writing as an act of survival and resistance. I feel like this is another synchronicity between myself and her, especially because of our next episodes that we're going to be doing. But she lived feminism and Chicana theory before she actually learned it. And that's kind of how I feel. I was going back over some old diaries of mine, and in my early 20s I'm talking about being objectified by men, and it's just interesting to feel it in the body first, and then to learn about it as a theory.
Have the language for it.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, that was another thing too. And her moon is ruling her Jupiter here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and then Mars is ruling her moon too. Anyway,
I was also just looking at this T-square between Mercury, the moon, and Jupiter.
T-square.
It's not super close.
Oh.
It's not an exact orb, but it's within 10 degrees, 5 degrees.
I see.
Jupiter in Cancer, Mercury in Libra, and the moon in Aries. So those three are interacting pretty intensely. Yeah, the intellectual versus the body experience versus the that Jupiter Cancer conjunct Lilith is just so interesting to me.
Well, and Jupiter's in his home house if she's the Scorpio rising,
and exalted in Cancer.
Yeah. And then this Uranus retrograde in Gemini also is revolutionary, and her writing was definitely revolutionary.
It's pretty close to where Uranus is right now.
Oh yeah.
About to be.
This is true. So it was precisely because Gloria was marked by difference from such an early age that she grew to challenge the very categories of different, according to this author right here and the editor of her final book, Light in the Dark, Luz en el Oscuro. And I want to read a short excerpt. I'm gonna read a few things, but first I just kind of wanted to read this one, the beginning of this, I guess, short story, but it's called La Prieta. When I was born, Mama Grande Locha inspected my buttocks, looking for a dark blotch, the sign of Indio, or worse, of mulatto blood. So, quick side note, my mom is really dark skinned. You've met my mom. She's got very, very dark skin. They used to call her India when she was a little girl because she was so dark. And the little patch of skin that this grandmother is talking about, I actually have on my butt. It's about this big, and it's a brown birthmark.
Interesting. Aww. You guys are twins.
My grandmother, Spanish part German, the hint of royalty lying just beneath the surface of her fair skin, blue eyes, and the coils of her once blonde hair, would brag that her family was one of the first to settle in the range country of South Texas. Too bad Mijita was morena, muy prieta, so dark and different from her own fair-skinned children, but she loved Mijita anyway. What I lacked in whiteness I had in smartness, but it was too bad I was dark like an Indian. Don't go out in the sun, my mother would tell me when I wanted to play outside. If you get any darker, they'll mistake you for an Indian. And don't get dirt on your clothes. You don't want people to say you're a dirty Mexican. It never dawned on her that though sixth generation American, we were still Mexican, and that all Mexicans are part Indian. I passed my adolescence combating her incessant orders to bathe my body, scrub the floors and cupboards, clean the windows and the walls. And as we'd get into the back of the patron's truck that would take us to the fields, she'd ask, "Where's your gorra? La gorra," rim held firm by slats of cardboard, neck flounce flowing over my shoulders, made me feel like a horse with blinders, a member of the French Foreign Legion, or a nun bowed down by her wimple. One day in the middle of the cotton field, I threw the gorra away and donned a sombrero. Though it did not keep out the Texas 110-degree sun as well as the bonnet, I could now see in all directions, feel the breeze, dry the sweat on my neck. When I began writing this essay nearly 2 years ago, the wind I was accustomed to suddenly turned into a hurricane. It opened the door to the old images that haunt me, the old ghosts and the old wounds. Each image a sword that cuts through me, each word a test. Terrified, I shelved the rough draft of this essay for a year. I was terrified because in this writing I must be hard on people of color who are the oppressed victims. I am still afraid because I will have to call us on a lot of shit, like our own racism, our fear of women and sexuality. One of my biggest fears is that of betraying myself, of consuming myself with self-castigation, of not being able to unseat the guilt that has ridden on my back for years. These, my 2 hands, quick to slap my face before others could slap it. Above all, I am terrified of making my mother the villain in my life rather than showing how she has been a victim. Will I be betraying her in this essay for her early disloyalty to me? With terror as my companion, I dip into life and begin work on myself. Where did it begin? The pain, the images that haunt me.
Wow.
Yeah, the pain, the images that haunt me.
Yeah.
12th house.
12th house and Lilith in Cancer.
And
the
yeah.
9th house and Jupiter conjunct. Yeah.
Although she felt stifled by the rigid gender roles of traditional Chicano home life, and by the way, when she says traditional Chicano home life, that is something that the white man brought. Indigenous, I mean, obviously, every tribe, every nation, every peoples have their own traditions, but the machismo is definitely something that the white man brought to us. So, although she felt stifled by the rigid gender roles of traditional Chicano home life, Anzaldúa find an entry into a different way of being through reading from early on. Defying everyone's expectations, she went to college. After graduating from high school in 1962, she attended Texas Women's University for 1 year but had to leave due to financial difficulties. She returned home and enrolled in Pan American University. Have you ever heard of that university? Me neither. Graduating with a bachelor's degree in English in 1968, she paid her own way by working during the day and attending classes in the evening. Afterwards, she taught in the far San Juan Alamo Independent School District while attending summer school at the University of Texas in Austin. And around this time, in the 70s, she taught a course at UT Austin called La Mujer Chicana, which she described as a turning point. And she felt more connected to the queer community and to writing and to feminism. And she received her master's degree in English from Utah in 1972 and began working toward a PhD in comparative literature.
From Utah?
Yeah.
So she was in Austin and Utah, or did you mean
No,
UT?
UT.
I was like, Utah.
Sorry, not Utah. UT, which is University of Texas. Yeah, the Women's University.
Cool.
She while she was at UT, she was first exposed to Chicano and feminist activism. Now, I did not know this about her, and this is the part that I love about her the most. And I'm also really disappointed in some of my professors at UC Berkeley because Gloria Anzaldúa, like all day, all night, but I never knew that she liked to study astrology.
Oh.
And she liked, while she was completing her doctoral work, she was honing her skills as a creative writer and exploring feminist theory alongside esoteric literature, including alchemy, astrology, and the I Ching, and other metaphysical wisdom traditions. It was not until she encountered feminist and esoteric metaphysical writings in the mid-1970s that she found frameworks enabling her to develop a multi-pronged theory and aesthetics of social transformation.
Wow.
So I was so excited to read that.
Yeah.
But I was also really bummed out because as you know, I wanted to write my honors thesis about astrology, and I got a lot of pushback. And then when I found out about her, I was like, why?
It's always conveniently left out of the story whenever anyone is interested in it.
Yeah. So I wanted to read another just poem of hers, but I think you're going to love this because she has a quote by James Hillman from Revisioning Psychology at the very beginning.
Wow.
So this poem is called Encountering the Medusa, and it was written in 1984. Quote, "Who in me says I'm ugly, makes me feel guilty? Who is it in my soul that needs you so desperately?" James Hillman, Revisioning Psychology, 139. Regular visitor she's become, can't seem to shake her out of my hair. Everywhere I turn, she's there. Her cold, piercing stare, one glimpse, and I freeze. It's no use reciting my list when I make the slightest move with my hand. They hiss and writhe, the snakes in her hair stop me in my tracks, bring the sweat every time. Too familiar she's become. You'd think I'd get used to it. I look in the mirror, see her numinous glare, know the daimon is there. What a nightmare. I want to take a machete, hack off her head, slip it on, turn my enemies to stone, deaden desire.
Wow.
She was a horse, moved with the speed of lightning, till something frightened her. Someone laid a curse on her, paralyzed her. Let's go, Ice Maiden. Move it. Make something. Do something. Anything. Don't just sit there, letting emptiness gnaw your bones. Move it. No use. I'm stuck in her grip, ice cold. In the mirror, her glittering eye. She can't move forward. I can't move backwards. Frozen in this borderland, this no man's land. Forever in between. Dry whisper of scales fill my ears. They thresh and hiss, the snakes in my hair, my cold, piercing stare. I'll turn you to stone.
Cool.
Isn't she rad?
Yeah, that was sick.
I love her so much.
It was really interesting and intense.
Yeah, intense indeed. She was involved in several activist groups. Oh, I wanted to show you a picture of her.
Huh.
And it's actually 3 different pictures. So if you could pull them up, Josh, whenever. But I just found her transformation very interesting. So that was her in 1966, 1967, and 1968.
1968, she's gay.
Right? Yes.
That's so sick. Yeah, she looks so... It's like hair slicked back.
Yeah. I'm getting chola vibes. Is this a good place to take a break?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we will come back in a bit.
Be right back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. So we were just looking at pictures of Gloria in the transition.
Yeah, and looking at her Venus in Virgo in the 11th house. Virgo is associated with the typical body, typically associated with the physical body and taking care of the physical body. And then sextiling Jupiter, her ability to find beauty and expand on it and write about it. And then, you know, her Chiron trining her moon as well, the pain and the trauma in her physical body.
Yeah, being
but
very
that's
familiar with it.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And then part of it also, you know, with the fact that it's in the 10th house in Leo of all things, and Pluto there, finding power through transcendence, but also through despair.
Expression, like turning this pain and this intense shadowy part of her life into a power that she then shares with the world, that she expresses externally, like letting it become a light.
Yeah. And then Neptune right there too. I just find it interesting that it's in Virgo, but it's very much a part of that that Mars Sun stellium, with Venus right there. She was involved in several activist groups while she was in Austin, but she ultimately felt unsupported by her doctoral department and made the decision to relocate to San Francisco to pursue her writing. From 1977 to 1981, it's so interesting to me, sorry, just really fast, like how many people we have covered that moved here.
Yep. So many. Also, I love that her track is Austin, Texas to San Francisco, because me too.
Yeah, exactly. So many synchronicities. From 1977 to 1981, she lived in San Francisco and she joined the Feminist Writers Guild and she led writing workshops. In California, she devoted herself completely to her writing, supporting herself through lectures and occasional teachings at San Francisco State University and UC Santa Cruz, while continuing political activism with the central goal to find ways to build a multicultural, inclusive feminist movement. She was troubled to find that there were very few writings by or about women of color. She wrote, in 1981, she published this bridge called My Back. It was her origin story. While teaching at UT Austin, she realized how few literary works had been published by and for women of color in the U.S., and so she decided to do something about it. She collaborated with Sherry Moraga. Do you know who that is? Mm-mm. She's also an activist, a feminist, an artist, a writer. So they collaborated to compile a collection of poetry and fiction and essays by women of color. And in 1981, this bridge called My Back, Writings by Radical Women of Color, was published. And the anthology offered a space for women of color to share their experiences and frustrations, born directly out of Anzaldúa's experience of elitism and racism she encountered even within feminist spaces. And it won the Before Columbus Foundation American Book Award. I'd never heard of it. And then in 1987, this was when she wrote her masterwork, Borderlands, La Frontera. Anzaldúa drew inspiration from ethnic and social communities of her youth, as well as from her experiences as a woman of color in academia. She used a blend of 8 dialects, and this is what I loved about her when she was writing. Or when I first started reading her writing, it reminded me of how my family talks, because, we speak Spanglish sometimes, and so she used a blend of 8 dialects, 2 variations of English, 6 of Spanish, and that creates a daunting challenge for the non-bilingual reader, giving them the same experience that she had as a child. And the book was voted one of 100 best books of the century by both The Hungry Mind Review, and Utni Reader. And I just want to read one more thing from her because there were so many that I wanted to read actually, but it was hard for me to pick. So
yeah, I love her writing. So
it's beautiful, right? Yeah. This was a poem that was not published, and it's called The Postmodern Llorona. The apparition smelling of sulfur, smoke, has shed her ancient mythical white dress for white jeans and a white sweatshirt with the words serpent woman in fluorescent lime green. She's exchanged her huaraches for white high-top sneakers. She sports a short spiked asymmetrical haircut with a magenta swath, having long ago shorn her long black pelo and thrown it into the river. Attached to her key ring is a penknife and a tiny cradle. The young woman is not afraid of La Llorona. She has become La Llorona. Her high-pitched yell is curdling the blood of her parents, raising the hair on the back of their necks. Most days, she floats through the air on a natural high. If she ever remembers the macho who abandoned and betrayed her, it does not render her paralyzed in susto and grief. She is the macha woman, the femme. La Llorona is a lesbian, and abandonment and betrayal are now mediated by both parties or in couples therapy. The weeping woman walks our streets, does her laundry at Ultramat. La Llorona attends UCSC, goes on picnics and to the movies. La Llorona writes poems. The dismembered missing children are not the issues of her womb. She has no children. And this is another thing. She had to have a hysterectomy, remember? And I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I'm Rh negative, or I might have told you this. Yeah. So yeah, and I can't have children either because the medical system let me down. I was supposed to get the Rogam shot, and it didn't happen for 2 weeks. And so there's just like all of these interesting synchronicities, and I just fell in love with her because she wanted to study these spiritual aspects of the borderlands, like astrology and esoteric studies, which are also in a liminal space, like the borderlands.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you one more thing about that, but I'm going to finish this first. She seeks the parts of herself she's lost along the way. Her eyes still shine yellow in the night, but you will only hear her screaming at Take Back the Night rallies. If she dreams at night, only her shrink knows if they're nightmares.
Wow.
When she got all this attention, she expressed regret. And this is another reason why I'm kind of annoyed with my professors at Berkeley, because she expressed regret that scholars had largely ignored the unsafe spiritual aspects of Borderlands. They never talk about that. I did not know that she was into esotericism and astrology and the I Ching until I started doing my own research. And then I was like, why didn't anybody talk about this? Like, so many women share so much in common with her. She's 6th generation. I'm 2nd generation Mexican American. And we're always, especially those of us who are of mixed race, are always trying to find where we belong. We're always feeling like we're in liminal spaces, because we don't belong over here and we don't belong over here. And so I'm just kind of annoyed that none of y'all told us about this shit. So anyway, the parts about devotion to La Virgen de Guadalupe, Nahuatl, Toltec divinities, the Yoruba, Orishas, the Yamaya, and the Oshun. And she, didn't like that there was resistance to that specific part of her work.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that it is always left out, because I feel like oftentimes people who have the most influential work are often into those kinds of things and directly being fed by those things or learning from those things. So to ignore it is truly to just completely ignore
part of our humanity.
Yeah, and to ignore a big part of the work that she was putting out, if it was fed by that kind of those kinds of practices or those kinds of beliefs, I guess, or wisdom traditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Missing out an entire chunk of what she was trying to say.
Yeah, it reminds me of, the scientific, methodology, that kind of methodology, where academia, mainstream academia, modern epistemology wants us to take something into a sterile lab and dissect it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like just a portion of existence.
Yep.
It's like we're not only like looking at things partially, but we're also coming to it with partial humanity, not our full humanity. In 1992, she was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. This is something that is so common in women of color, especially women of color, especially like a lot of indigenous people eating, the white people's food is just not good for our bodies, and so diabetes runs rampant in my mom's side of the family, and a lot of Black feminist scholars also died of like cancer early as well, and so there's a lot of like stress for women of color for many reasons that intersect, but so according to her literary collaborator AnaLouise Keating, who edited this, this diagnosis altered her life on almost every level and forced her to re-examine her self-definition, her relationship to her body, her writing process, and her worldview. And she died in Santa Cruz, California on May 14th, 2004 from complications of diabetes. And she was buried at Valle de la Paz Cemetery in Hidalgo County, Texas. And at the time, she was a doctoral candidate at UC Santa Cruz, which was posthumously awarded her a PhD.
How old is she?
2004. So she was born in 1942. I don't know, how old is that? Let's see.
62.
Yeah, which is young.
That is really young.
Yeah, it's only 10 years away for me.
Oh, that's really sad.
So, I would, with that, I would like to, I'm going to quote her here. I would like to invite into our coven poet, Bruja, la Chicana Feminist Theorist, depth psychologist, alchemist. I'm going to add astrologer, dreamer, threshold keeper, and a woman who called herself a winged, swayed bridge and a crossroads inhabited by whirlwinds. Gloria Evangelina Anzaldúa. Welcome.
Welcome, Gloria.
Finally.
Yeah, that was a wonderful episode. I'm so happy that you covered her because I know you've talked about her a lot and her name has obviously come up a lot in just our world, and she was just in my mind when I was researching Leonora, so
yeah, as always.
Perfect. Yep. Locked in. Yeah.
So I would say she's probably hanging out with Ana Mendieta. Who else? We need a roster.
I know we're getting so big at this point. Another one from season 1, actually, Sally Miller Gearhart, who was also a feminist professor, the Women in Gender Studies.
Oh yeah.
Founding person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they would get along.
Yeah,
also gay.
I'm blanking literally on everybody that we've covered.
Yeah, I feel like she would get along with who was
my first one? I know. I was trying to remember her name.
That's terrible.
I know, it's so bad. That's exactly who I was thinking about too. Sor Juana de la Cruz.
Yeah, Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that she would probably be super stoked to meet her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Sor Juana would be so proud of her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Working in the fields is hard, man. My grandparents had they would take care of the, field workers when they would come, back, and give them like a place to stay and food and everything. And it's backbreaking work. She had to have been brilliant to be able to have done that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. And I love that I was picking up on like the gender confusion.
Yes.
In her chart. That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. She did like to play with gender.
Yeah.
A lot. So.
Femininity was a confusing thing for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially because of, her illness.
Yeah,
that
the
she
body.
had. Mm-hmm.
The body complications.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so
wonderful.
All right, welcome,
Gloria.
And next time, or do we have a clue? do we have a clue?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, next time, I guess I'll just say it. Coco and I, for our next 2 episodes, are going to be telling our own stories. Because I just was thinking, like, in this coven, I would want Coco to be in the coven, and Coco has such a fascinating story with so much wisdom to share, and so many, just such a beautiful, rich life that I feel like people need to know.
I feel the same way about you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to be doing this kind of thing, but with our own stories for the next 2 episodes. So.
Yes. So
See you
we'll
then.
see you next time. Bye-bye.